What up? I'm Josh Paulson, and I'm not going to trust this now. Okay, it is recording. And welcome to my programming blog. So I want to talk a little bit about this buffer bar up top and how I ended up doing that. So this is another thing that's kind of weird. So let's look up how the buffer works for the video element. Media buffering, seeking. Okay, I want to just... Okay, here we go. Dot buffered. So it returns a time ranges object. It's basically an array of arrays. So length 0. What this ends up giving us is an array of all of the time ranges that have been buffered, which is interesting because we're taking so I'm going to go over the video series. So if I go into here and I actually look up showponies.video.files0.buffered, you can see already that it's showing that an array is going to pop up. I'll make that a little bit bigger and make sure that this is displayed in here. So enter, I've got this array, and you can see that it's showing me the times that it has been buffered. Now basically what I ended up doing to get that up there, and in this context we're just going to look at one file first. I believe I have video up here already, but you know, I'm just going to open it up because it'll probably be faster, is that I ended up taking, whenever it ends up adding to the progress, I end up saving that to a variable that's more easily accessible. So I end up taking the buffer from the video element and I end up putting it up onto the main object. End up going to showpony.php, which is the main JavaScript file, and so it has some PHP that puts some info in it. And here we've got check for buffering, which that's for preloading. But I'm going to look at, I believe it's called total buffered. Get total buffered. So this is looking at the whole showponies buffered amount, because that can be different, which makes sense, from individual files buffer amount. So if I mean, in this case, it's going to be the same. So if I go showponies.video.buffered, it will be the same as the other because there's only one file here. However, let's say that I go into the manga. It is going to be different on a comic by comic basis. It still ends up returning a time array in my case, but it's based on the files. So going back to the video, what I do is that I go through the arrays. I end up going through all of the files first off, and I look at what's been buffered there. I end up considering all those times, and I get those amounts, basically. From there, I end up drawing to a 1 pixel high canvas. So I have this canvas. The buffer is actually a canvas up here. Height 1, width 1000. You can change the width and it's not an issue. It's really just how fine of resolution you want for it. I figure that people probably won't need more than a resolution of 1000 for checking the buffer. What we've got there is it now drawing in. If everything's been buffered, then it just fills a whole rectangle. If the buffered amount is an array instead, then we end up going through each of those parts of the array, each of those ranges, and drawing to the canvas. So I end up reading the ranges that have been buffered, drawing it to the canvas, and as you can see, as I move this around, more of it gets buffered. And the same is true with manga or other media. In this case, it is going through each of the different files, and then it is considering where they fall on the length, and it's adding that to an overall buffered array. So now if I go back to showponies manga buffered, and here I can see that there are several arrays. So 0 to 80, that's this time here because manga is right to left, and it's 100 to 130. This section, 170 to 190, is this section here. Now if everything's been buffered, then buffered ends up getting set to true. But if some of it still has to be loaded, buffered, then buffered is an array. If nothing has been buffered, then it is an empty array, which is one of the things that's kind of confusing about using buffered, is if there is nothing buffered yet, then it's just going to be an empty array. At least I believe so. It's been a little while since I've done that level. So that's how I end up showing what's been buffered. It kind of scared the heck out of me when I first looked into it because it seemed very odd and confusing, but in essence, you have arrays of the times that have been buffered, and then you end up considering those and you draw onto a canvas. Just 1 pixel high, however many pixels wide you want, get the percentages of, well, where would this time fall, and drawing rectangles across it.